People want to make it into some sort of chess game or checkers, which is very neat, has rules and so forth. War is, the pieces don't fit together easily. They're very complex. You have to sit down, you have to study it, you have to understand what you're doing. I don't think there was ever that much serious study of the opponent and what was at stake. I mean, how could you be surprised by the closure of the Strait of Hormuz? Lloyd's of London closed the Strait of Hormuz immediately. It's a
Right.
war zone. They're not going to underwrite any shipping right now. So then why is everybody surprised? Then, you've got Iran that says, well, we can fix this matter. We'll just toll everybody and nobody gets out of there that has anything to do with Israel and the United States. We didn't think about that. Did President Trump call the Prime Minister of Japan, the President of Korea, Prime Minister Modi in India, President Xi? Did he ask any of these people, I'm considering this. This is what I want to do? Of course not. Didn't give a damn. We have to be frank and honest and open about what we're dealing with. Israel has a plan to essentially turn most of the region that doesn't submit to their dominance into Gaza or the facsimile of Gaza. And now, President Trump may not personally support that, but he's effectively enabling it. And what he's trying to do is to buy some time for, I think, our forces in the region to rearm, refresh, refit, and get ready for the next round, which President Trump hopes will be the final round. The global south, which suffers the most as a result of the closure of the strait, was in good shape. Now, all of a sudden, the global economy is on the road to some sort of economic depression unless a miracle occurs and we stop the war within the next few days. And I think we have to understand that the North Africa and the Middle East, all of these countries are now dumping the dollar. They are moving rapidly towards de-dollarization. So that's, I think, the de facto end of the petrodollar, although I suspect the next round of attacks on Iran will provoke what the Iranians have promised to do, which is that if you attack our oil infrastructure, you attack our desalination plants, we will do the same thing to the west side of the Gulf, in which case the United Arab Emirates and Kuwait and the rest will effectively cease to exist. And the pipelines that run from the Persian Gulf over to the Red Sea, those things will be destroyed. They're easily identified, and once you've destroyed them, oil is not going to move any further to the west. Initially, I guess the draft that we put together for the Pakis concerning this ceasefire did not specifically mentioned Lebanon as part of it and was not excluded. The Pakis took the draft that we gave them, they turned it around and launched it to both Iran and then back to us, of course, as part of the theater. And suddenly a call came in from Mr. Netanyahu after he discovered that Lebanon was part of the deal and said, no, this can't happen. At which point in time, President Trump said, oh, no, we're sorry, we made a mistake. Lebanon is not part of the deal. And now you've got Vice President Vance who's saying that was never supposed to be there. That's a mistake. Lebanon is a separate and distinct affair. So you go back and you determine who's running the show. And I think it's pretty obvious that, it's Bibi Netanyahu and Donald Trump against the world with Bibi Netanyahu on top. China imports roughly 50% of all of its oil from the Persian Gulf. 13% of its oil comes from Iran. And I think the Chinese, who long before the war began, cautioned against it, and as soon as the war began, urged an end to it, not simply because China has an interest in doing so because of the vulnerability of oil and energy in general, but because they genuinely opposed it and saw this global calamity developing. By the way, the Chinese have a huge strategic oil reserve. It'll take another 90 to 120 days to exhaust it if they have to depend on it for very long. So I think it was the combination of the United States and China. Were they working together? It's hard to tell, but obviously the Chinese were made aware of this by the Pakistanis. And Pakistan did what both the United States and the Chinese wanted. The problem is that Pakistan is not a place and not a group that under any circumstances the Israelis would trust. So I'm really surprised that we did that. I thought we would probably turn to Prime Minister Modi and ask him if he would sponsor these interactions, because Modi has good relations with Iran, good relations with Israel, and good relations with us. But it's turned out to be Pakistan. So, in any case, it doesn't look as though anybody really wants a ceasefire. We know that the Iranians did not ask for this, they never have. They've rejected all approaches by us in connection with any such thing. They don't trust us. And frankly, I don't see at this stage why they should. President Trump actually said something that really upset the world against the United States, or with the United States. And that was his notion of destroying a civilization in a night, because everyone interpreted that to be a threat to use nuclear weapons. I don't think that's abated. I think everybody in the global south, I think in Eurasia, East Asia, Europe, everyone is really concerned about that, because that's the proverbial Pandora's box opening, at which point in time all bets are off. Anything is possible. And the Chinese have gone to great lengths to warn the Israelis that if they were to consider using a nuclear weapon, that would be the beginning of that state's demise.